Well, hello, you mutts. It's been a while. It has been a while. I'll tell you for why. I'm also an artist, and I created a piece of art. It took me ages to do. I worked really hard on it. I put it up on Instagram. Let's not talk about fucking Facebook. Put it up on Instagram. It got like 3 likes. I'm like, what am I doing here? What's the point? It sent me into a deep funk. Look, I'm not the best at social media. In fact, I'm probably the worst. I don't scroll. I can't scroll. There's too much. Like, if you've got that kind of free time to be scrolling, then there's too much else interesting to be doing. Like, I'm currently translating Anglo-Saxon and Norse poems from the original. I could just read them somebody else's translation. I could just do that. But what's the, you want to get as close. That doesn't bring you. That's just reading somebody else's interpretation. All you get is the story then, It doesn't bring you in contact. Yeah, I make loads of mistakes, but some mistakes can be revelatory. That's a big word. Some mistakes can lead to great things. What I'm going to do with these translations that I do myself, I managed to do, it takes me about an hour to read 10 lines, translating it myself from the original. I don't know, maybe nothing. Probably nothing. But one hopes that it's working on the brain. So anyway, this is one of the many reasons why, and improving the brain. So anyway, this is one of the many reasons why I'm not on social media, scrolling, clicking likes all the time. Like back in the past, when you were invited round to family friends to see their holiday photos, you groaned. Nowadays you're supposed to be clicking a like on pictures of their fucking food, let alone a holiday photo. I don't get it. It's it doesn't seem right. It seems like lying to me. A lot of the time. It's a given that I'm glad that if you're having a good time, and I feel bad if you're having a sad time. So isn't that just a given in life? Anyway, so maybe that's why I don't get many likes, but sometimes I get 20. I've had 30. Which I know is still sad. Self-promotion is certainly not my strong point. And that and various other things put me into a deep funk. Now, that deep funk has been broken up by, as they say, touching grass. I have been out. I suppose, at least. I would like to talk about those. There's been 2 historic walks since I last spoke to you. One walk just for fun, which went funny, and one visit to a river kingdom, which maybe I could speak on. I don't know. Maybe I should expand what this channel's about as well. Just talking to myself. But today, right now, in this moment, and when I've not been out, I've been sitting here like the man who fell to earth with the curtain closed. It's too hot in the day with the sun shining in. gazing in depression at YouTube, unable to get on with my own work, devastated by 5 likes. I did want to start a Motown style band called the 5 Likes, but that never happened, or has not happened yet. Also battling the booze, put on a bit of weight, made an adjustment, losing that weight. I feel I'm up and down like Oprah Winfrey when it comes to weight. I want to change the title of this channel to Dogs for the Bow, presented by New Choice City. I think Dogs for the Bow is a medieval phrase meaning I want to use it as a piece of slang. The dog for the bow is they would fire the bow, bang, the arrow would hit the deer, the heart, and they would release the dog. So the dog, so they'd say, get the dogs for the bow, you know? It means so as a modern slang, it's you're the man for the job, or that's the dog for the job, or, you know, something like that. I like it, dogs for the bow. And it also relates to that modern thing of like, dog, which I think is quite funny. You're the man now, dog. So anyway, today, in this moment right now, I'm going to talk about Docklands Walk Part 2, the sequel to Docklands Park Walk 1. I thought I'd learnt my lesson. I specifically arranged this walk around somebody to suit their needs, to suit when they could make it. And on the day, they messaged me, can't make it. And this is what happened before when I arranged one specifically to suit someone else. They couldn't make it. No hard feelings, of course, you know, things happen, but I would have liked this person to have been there. They're historical, you know, they know a lot about history. Then other people dropped out, at least 2 other people dropped out. Somebody else said they were coming, we were there, they turned up, family in tow, on bicycles, and it was basically just a hiya. I didn't say I was coming on the walk, just said I was coming to say hello. So they just went off, and so all that was left was me, Little Ginge, and Ricky Stitch. No Beamish. Beamish is, let's say, on holiday. Well, we're still, you know, pals, don't get me wrong. But he's on holiday. He can tell you if he wants to another time. He will be back. He will be back, I'm sure. So part 2 of the Dockland Walk, it started at Wapping. He says Wapping Underground Station, but it's on the overground. So this guy's a dick. He's not a dick, but you know, it's not one of his mistakes. Starts off unpromisingly, with a heavy bit of infrastructure. Now, I want to get into infrastructure, not like so you know, beating everybody over the head with it all the time, but you know, you have to understand infrastructure. You know, without infrastructure, there's no fucking culture. Trains travelling south from here, they pass under the Thames to Rotherhithe through what was the world's first river tunnel, the Thames Tunnel, built by father and son Mark and Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Okay, so which one's the father, which one's the son? The way it's written here suggests that Mark was the father. Between 1823 and 1843, dogged by problems and worker fatalities during construction, the tunnel was eventually opened for pedestrian traffic only and taken over by the underground in 1869. So the little people were walking through. This was he asked us to look for a red gated entrance on the right. We couldn't find this. So we're supposed to be walking along the Thames path. I don't know if that's our fault or his fault or what that was, but we didn't see this red gate. And so we just walked on to the first thing, which is the prospect of Witney, which means blimey. So that took longer than I thought. Oh, now my mouse has come disconnected. The trials of life. Yeah, still disconnected. Life is sheer pain. There it is, there's my mouse is back. That took longer than expected because it told me my recording device was full, so then I had to empty it and all of that. So the gibbet at the prospect of Whitby, it is a replica, and it's not in exactly the right spot. It's actually there because in the 17th century, prospect of Whitley became the hostelry of choice for the hanging Judge Jeffreys, who was the scourge of the Monmouth Rebellion. He lived nearby, and a replica gallows and noose hangs by the Thameside window, commemorating his custom. He was chased by anti-royalists into the nearby town of Ramsgate, captured and taken to the Tower for his own safety. According to John Stowe, it was the usual place for hanging of pirates and sea rovers at the low water mark, and there to remain till 3 tides had overflowed them. But Execution Dock was actually by Wapping Old Stairs. So it's a little bit confused, the information. Some say it's a little bit further along. That's it. Execution Dock is it is near the shoreline at Wapping. But it's a little bit further along or a little bit further back. Some sources state there is a large E on the Thames side of the building at Swan Wharf, indicating the site of Execution Dock. Another source states it is approximately where the London Overground station now stands. Oh, it's odd that judge should choose this place to drink because the prospect of Whitby got the name the Devil's Tavern because of all the ne'er-do-wells that used to drink there. It was a hotbed of cutthroats, pirates and felons, so dastardly was its clientele that it became known to the locals as the Devil's Tavern. The publican shrewdly left this name off the signage, however, forcing anyone arranging to meet there to describe it as the pub near the prospect of Whitby, the name of a ship moored nearby. So that's interesting. Seems to be owned by right now. It was established in 1520. So why would this judge choose it? Hold on a minute. Maybe he wanted to clear it up, in that sense. As well as it's now a renowned gastro pub. Even though it had a bad reputation, it did not deter the likes of Samuel Pepys, Charles Dickens and Turner from enjoying a drink there. Well, maybe it wasn't so bad then, by the time they went there. But I'm sure if they did go, they would have taken some heavies with them. Hold on, I'm just going to make a cigarette. Are we recording? Yes, we are recording. You have to check this sort of thing. I've done it before. Well, I haven't been recording. How are you all anyway? I hope you're all very, very, very extremely well. And finding out lots of interesting facts about the world, past, present and future for yourselves. Yeah, that's what I dearly hope. And I hope to goodness that we all meet one day, either in this life or the next. They say it takes ages to grow a YouTube channel, and you have to take it semi-seriously, upload at least once a day. But man, I don't know if I can do that. I like doing this, but my art is the most important thing, and I suppose if I could film myself doing my art, I could put that in it somehow. I could do that somehow. Anyway, just speaking aloud. Aloud there. Aloud, aloud, aloud. It was a fairly nice day. It was not. It was warm. It wasn't particularly sunny. We went in the afternoon, the late afternoon. 4, 5? 4. 4, I think we met. Or 5. I can't remember. Opposite the prospect is a stylish red brick building. Formerly, there's infrastructure in this for days. Brick building formerly owned by the London Hydraulic Power Company, dating from 1890. It was one of a number of local plants that provided hydraulic power to work the cranes, capstans, bridges and lock gates in the surrounding docks. And it remained in use until 1977. Until recently, the building was home to the Wapping Project Gallery, but it's now due for development. It looks it as well. It's not taken care of. Just outside the prospect, take a right and head along the Thames Path. This leads you round to the former entrance of Shadwell Basin, the last of the 3 basins on this walk that connected the Thames to the London docks. When he means the previous walk, part one. Shadwell sounds Welsh to me. Like Wapping, was once a rural hamlet that supported a small-scale fishing and seafaring industry. It adjoined the hamlet of Ratcliffe just to the east, although the latter has now disappeared as a distinct area, courtesy of extensive road building, slum clearances, and the devastation caused during the Blitz. My friend loves it here. It's just basically a huge load of expanse of water, basically. Walk towards the original. There's a sign that says "No swimming," because people have died in there, but people ignore the sign saying "No swimming" and they just swim. Walk towards the original red swing bridge, once powered by the London Hydraulic Power Company, and cross over to see the vast expanse of Shadwell Basin. We had a debate: is this vast or just big or large? Extremely big. You know, I suppose you have to think about word count and stuff in books, but I mean, it's big. Vast. Today this is used, I question that. Today this is used primarily for water sports and other leisure activities. Oh, well, well, it certainly is a sign saying no swimming, so, you know, I don't know. Follow the path on the right until you reach some steps in the wall that take you to St Paul's Church, clearly visible. Yeah, we had to walk past lads out on some open air circuit training or whatever, fitness things showing off. Shadwell was famous in the 18th century for the number of master mariners who lived there. St Paul's became known as the Church of the Sea Captains, 75 of whom were buried in its vaults. The explorer Captain James Cook, 1728 to 79, was perhaps the most famous parishioner, and his son James was baptised here in 1763. Jane Randolph was also baptised here in 1720, later moving to America, where she gave birth to the future US President Thomas Jefferson. The original church fell into disrepair and was rebuilt in the 1820s as a Waterloo church. Something to do with the Battle of Waterloo, I expect. One of 600 churches built in the early 19th century following the Church Building Act of 1818. The Act's wording referred to the parish having a population of 10,000 people, the far greater part of them being labourers in the docks and on the river. We didn't go inside the church, but it says, look out for a list of benefactors to the charity school, which includes a number of sea captains. The former school building still stands opposite the church. Leave the church by the main entrance and follow the map along the highway onto Glamis Road to reach the Red Swing Bridge again, and then head south down a narrow alleyway towards the Thames. This skirts alongside the King Edward VII Memorial Park, which we actually went through on your left, built in the 1920s. Much of Shadwell, including its slum housing, was demolished to make way for it. It was a nice park. The grass seemed a bit burnt out. I keep thinking you need to put on a jumper, but I don't because it's very warm. I need something else, and really the jumper is the ruse for the drink. But yeah, so I'm going to pour myself another drink. A lot of London seems to be fenced off at the moment. There's been a lot of fencing up going on. Of places where the general public would congregate. I don't know if this is because they want us all, to have nowhere to go. Do you know what I mean? To be stuck in our little pods. Or whether they're genuinely doing works, but The nice bit of green near me is still not open, and a lot of areas of this walk were cut off as well. As you reach the Thames Path, again head eastwards and look out for a circular brick building. This is actually an old air shaft for the Rotherhithe Tunnel running directly underneath. The tunnel was opened in 1908 by George, Prince of Wales, later King George V. I'm putting on some glasses actually, reading glasses. It's got that bad, sir. It's that bad, sir. Whoever dreamed it would come to this. On the rear of the air shaft you can see a ceramic tile placed here in memory of navigators who in the latter half of the 16th century set sail from this reach of the River Thames near Ratcliffe Cross. Ratcliffe Cross was a place on narrow streets slightly further to the east that marked the boundary of the Pool of London, and which also served as the starting point of many Elizabethan voyages of exploration. Yes, the ceramic tile commemorates that. It's quite nice. There should be a photo here of it. Continue along the path, which we couldn't because it was all fenced off for some reason. Yeah. After the massive modern free trade wharf development, I suppose, is that what that is? It's still going on. You'll see some fine Georgian buildings, always the Georgian buildings, once owned by the East India Company. The great trading concern that at its peak controlled vast swathes of the British Empire, including India. The company built the warehouses in the late 18th century, although they were partly destroyed in a huge fire of 1794 that devastated much of Ratcliffe, and is regarded as the most destructive fire to have taken place in London between the Great Fire of 1666 and the Blitz of 1940. Just past these warehouses on the left, you can see the modern Atlantic Wharf building, which stands on the site of where, at least until the end of the 19th century, a small inlet called Ratcliffe Dock was located. Continue on until the path heads away from the Thames and takes you to the start of Narrow Street. At this point, those interested in the history of the 12th century foundation of St. Catherine, continue on Narrow Street, continue east until you see a sign for the Thames Path on the right, which you follow. You soon come to the entrance of Regent's Canal Dock, now known as Limehouse Basin. Walk up the stairs past Gordon Ramsay's gastropub, The Narrow, where we shouted things like, "Get your fucking," because he swears a lot. "Get your fucking bread, sarnies here." It occupies the old dockmaster's house. This kind of stuff began to make me sad towards the end. Cross the bridge to join the... I'll tell you why later. Cross the bridge to join the pathway that skirts around the dock. We miss old Beamish, don't we? Opened in 1820, Regent's Canal Dock covered 10 acres and was used by seagoing vessels offloading goods distributed via England's extensive canal system. You can think of the canals as veins, and these and various other docks maybe as the hearts pumping out the blood. Not initially successful, it eventually carved out a niche for itself by the mid-19th century, supplying coal to power stations. The dock declined because of the railways, and it was later renamed Limehouse Basin. The dock continued to be used for commercial trade as late as the 1960s, and today is now mainly used as a berthing place for leisure boats. The dock is connected both to the Regent's Canal and the River Lee navigation via the Limehouse Cut. Follow the sign for Limehouse Cut and pass under 2 overhead bridges until you see an opening on the right hand side. This was a nice walk, walking through along the canal. This was quite nice. And I spotted this next thing from a distance, which quite pleased me, because before doing these walks I don't think I would have been able to. I was, aha, that's a Hawksmoor. Because after passing under 2 overhead bridges, you see an opening on the right. I saw it before, and this leads into little parts which we walk through. At the entrance, cross over New Street. It's New join houses to reach St Anne's Limehouse. Now, on Newell Street, this woman said to us, when we asked for a little bit of a direction, because we did go in the wrong way for a moment there. She said of this apropos of nothing, she said, well, of asking about history, she goes, Charles Dickens' uncle lived in this street. Well, she was bloody wrong. It wasn't his uncle. It was somebody else, which we'll find out later. So there. St Anne's is another of Hawksmoor's rare group of London churches and was consecrated in 1730. Hawksmoor's Baroque building was badly damaged by fire in 1850 and later restored by Philip Hardwick. The churchyard contains an intriguing pyramid thought to have been designed by Hawksmoor for the church tower. The architectural historian Sir Nicholas Pevsner described it as a remarkable pyramid of unknown date and unknown purpose. It stands about 3 meters high and has the wisdom of Solomon inscribed upon it, in both Hebrew and English. In recent years, some writers have just suggested Hawksmoor was more interested in pagan or Freemasonry symbols, and see this as yet another example of his attempts to infiltrate his designs into a Christian context. Yeah, this was great. I really liked this. It was hard to see the Hebrew writing. I couldn't see it. This is where bloody little Ginge ducked out. You know? So it's just me and Ricky Stitch. You know what I mean? He goes, oh, my bus is nearby. I'll just jump on the bus. Oh, God. So anyway, then we had to retrace our steps and continue eastwards through Limehouse back to Narrow Street. We had to retrace our steps back to Narrow Street and continue eastwards through a Limehouse, an area named after the lime oasts houses that exist here from the 14th century. By 1610, half of Limehouse's population of 2,000 people were seafarers. Later it became a popular location for Chinese sailors who had been left stranded in London. Many had joined the Blue Funnel Line, a shipping company that refused its deckhands a return passage. I suppose that's would mean you'd have to find work either with them or somebody else to go out on another boat, you know. These glasses, I have to be in exactly the right position to operate them properly. It's a little bit annoying. As a result, many Chinese sailors ended up settling in Limehouse, often marrying local women and generally keeping a low profile. At the most, around 2,000 such sailors lived in the area, but their use of opium created a reputation, largely exaggerated, says this guy, of vice-ridden Limehouse dens where honest citizens were corrupted by drugs and young women sold into the mythical, says this guy, white slave trade. I mean, it certainly has been a white slave trade, but was it still, you know, as he sort of says here, catch it off the street, so to speak? I looked it up, well, I didn't try very hard, but there was nothing concrete, shall we say, either way. Many writers and social commentators felt compelled to investigate the illicit pleasures on offer and as a result, Limehouse's opium dens feature in many books of the era, including Charles Dickens' The Mystery of Edwin Drood, Oscar Wilde's A Picture of Dorian Gray, and several Sherlock Holmes novels by Arthur Conan Doyle. In the popular books of Sax Rohmer, the villain Dr. Fu Manchu and his evil gang were often to be found in dens of Limehouse. The Fu Manchu stories were later made into a series of popular films in the mid-20th century, thus ensuring Limehouse became known internationally for its legendary vices. During the first half of the 20th century, and largely goaded on by the popular press, the local authorities planned London's original Chinatown out of existence. This guy's got an agenda, largely goaded on by popular press. I mean, you have to take his word for that, but laws were introduced to clamp down on drugs and prevent the hiring of Chinese sailors. Streets popular with the Chinese were demolished to make way for new roads. From the time of the anti-Chinese, that's infrastructure, darling. It happens to everybody. From the time of the anti-Chinese riots that took place in 1919 in East London until the 1950s, the Chinese community in Limehouse gradually disappeared. A new, more socially acceptable version of Chinatown grew up around Gerrard Street in Soho, where it continues to thrive to this day. Those riots were because people thought that their jobs were getting stolen, you know, and perhaps they were justified, perhaps they weren't. I mean, not for violence against anybody, but in their fears. A new, more socially acceptable version of Chinatown grew up around Gerrard Street in Soho, where it continues to thrive to this day. Oh, got some kind of message. Never anything interesting. Rarely anything interesting. However, a rare remnant of the old Limehouse Chinese community can be seen at 50 East India Dock Road, where Chun Yi Society School is situated, hosting both a Chinese school and old people's club. I really was thinking, gosh, I'd love to have, because the area just looks so banal and cleaned up now, to be honest. It does. It does. It's a nice walk, but it looks really, really banal and cleaned up. I would have liked to have, God, I wish you could time travel, you know. It just looked so banal. And then when you've got this picture of opium and sailors, you know, and prozzies and all the rest of it, cutthroats, and I don't know, it must have been quite a bustle and a yelling and probably very dangerous, you know, clip-clopping of horses' hooves and stuff. But now it's just so banal. It was just people jogging about. It. Narrow Street contains a cluster of late 17th and early 18th century houses, and is one of the East End's most historic streets. It has attracted a number of well-known residents over the years, including David Lean, the director of Brief Encounter, Lawrence of Arabia, and Dr. Zhivago. He bought 4 derelict houses in Sun Wharf on Narrow Street in the 1980s. He then spent $6 million creating a fantastic river-facing house that is regarded as one of the best in London, and which is still owned by his family. Make sure you visit number 76, the Grapes Public House. The original inn was rebuilt in 1720 and was well known to Charles Dickens. As a boy, he used to come to Limehouse to visit his godfather. It wasn't his uncle, it was his godfather, you stupid cunt. Who was a sailmaker. I don't mean that. He was a sailmaker living in Newell Street. His godfather often brought Dickens to the pub, where he was made to stand on a table and sing to the customers. That is what we should make certain people do. The writer used the grapes as the inspiration for the Six Jolly Fellowship Porters public house depicted in Our Mutual Friend. In the book he describes a narrow, lopsided wooden jumble of corpulent windows. Corpulent means fat, doesn't it? Heaped one upon another as you might heap as many toppling oranges, with a crazy wooden veranda impending over the water. The available space in it was not much larger than a hackney coach, but no one could have wished the bar bigger. Apparently the description still runs true today, although we didn't go in. Shortly after the grapes, pick up another sign for the Thames path and head back out alongside the river to get fantastic views of 1 Canada Square, better known as the Canary Wharf Tower, the tallest building in Britain, situated on the Isle of Dogs. I was looking for this, and I didn't see anything that made me think, gosh, that's the tallest tower in Britain. Oh, it's that one. Okay. It's that one. Yeah, I can see that from my kitchen window. It's the one with the pyramid on top. Like, Hawksmoor didn't get to put the pyramid on his church, but now there's a pyramid on top of this tower. That's the tallest tower in Britain. Really? Blimey. Doesn't seem very tall to me. Where are we? I'll put a picture. There's a short walk now that leads you around the beginning of the U-shaped peninsula as home to the Isle of Dogs. You cross a narrow modern bridge over Limekiln Dock. Continue past the new and distinctive Dundee Wharf on the left, and soon you arrive at Westferry Circus in Canary Wharf, situated on the Isle of Dogs. I love this bit. For many centuries, Limehouse was seen as the eastern limit of central London. Well, not this bit. With the Isle of Dogs regarded as a marshland, largely uninhabited and rarely visited. I would have liked to have visited. Although it is not actually an island, the interlocking docks and canals constructed across the peninsula in the 19th century have almost made it one. In medieval times it was known as Stepney Marsh, and the current name was first mentioned in 1588, perhaps in reference to Henry VIII's hunting dogs, which may have been kennelled here. That's great. I saw in my mind the marshland and the mist, and 2 young ne'er-do-wells creeping along, trying to steal one of the king's dogs. You know, with other ne'er-do-wells hiding in bushes and stuff, like the ones that just would jump out on Blake down in Lambeth. There's no honour among thieves, you know. And then he was trying to steal the dog for kidnap, or to enter it in races or something, or you to use it to hunt for themselves, to hold it for ransom. I don't know. Or the dikes. Isle of Dykes, Isle of Dogs, could that happen? Constructed by the Dutch engineers who drained the marshes. Until the late 18th century, there were less than a handful of buildings in the whole area, but that changed when a huge West India docks were opened on the northern side. We sat down here for a while and had a little rest and a cigarette and a drink. Which was nice. But I was feeling down because I could see it all in my mind very strongly, and the contrast between that, which obviously had its problems and that, but was full of character, to what felt largely devoid of character area now, all cleaned up. And I mean, character, isn't that a blemish? Blemish is a character. It's all bland, and I don't know. An Act of Parliament in 1799 paved the way for the construction of West India Docks. Its owners were merchants with commercial interests in the West Indies. The momentum to build the docks was largely driven by the energies of merchant Robert Milligan. He had been shocked upon his return to London by the theft and delays suffered by his ships whilst they tried to offload their cargoes in the Pool of London. By 1802 the import dock was completed, with the parallel export dock to the south finished 3 years later. To the south of the West India Docks ran the City Canal, a channel cut right across the Isle of Dogs to allow ships to avoid the long journey around the peninsula. However, the City Canal was never very successful, and it was later taken over by the West India Dock Company. This is heavy infrastructure. I'd like to see maps to compare and things. The company then turned the canal into a third parallel dock and renamed it the Southwest India Dock. Initially, the West India Docks only dealt with goods from the West Indies, such as rum, molasses and sugar. The original import dock covered 30 acres and was the first commercial wet dock in London. Eventually, the West India Docks would cover a huge 295 acres, most of which is now covered by the Canary Wharf estate. Ships would enter the West India Docks from the Blackwall Basin. It's hard to picture this even when you have a map. So, sorry, listener or viewer. Ships would enter the West India Docks from the Blackwall Basin on the eastern side of the peninsula, with the smaller lighters entering from Limehouse Basin on the west side, now filled in. The docks could berth up to 600 vessels at any one time, and they were surrounded by a moat and 6-metre-high security wall patrolled by armed guards. It makes me think of the Assassin's Creed games. They do it when they're at their best. They can really take you there to the past. They're very well done, those games. Well, the ones that I've played, which is not all of them. Apparently they've dropped off a little bit, but I can't really play computer games anymore. I can't justify it. I could justify Assassin's Creed if you feel like you're getting a holiday in history, because they are done brilliantly well. Where are we? Yes, the armed guards, the first London docks to be completely enclosed. You'd have a mission to get in there, you know. Within the walls were 5-storey warehouses, and the import dock alone contained an unbroken line of warehouses that stretched for 3/4 of a mile. Follow the map across the West Ferry Circus and cross over to Hartsmere Road. Taking this road, you'll see an entrance on your right that will take you to the former import dock. This got very difficult. His map was terrible, his directions were terrible. Ricky had to go onto Google map thing, you know, to help. Basically, you had to go down some steps, and yeah, it's very difficult. Walk slightly further along Hartsmere Road, looking out on. I did think we saw a famous actress there. Pretty certain. Well, I don't know if it's super famous, but semi-famous, definitely. Big wide eyes. And she looked at me first. Whatever. Which made me look at her to notice her. And the guy she was with, I overheard him talking something about film, a director. Anyway. Walk slightly further along Hartsmere Road, looking out on the left, the Georgian Dockmaster's house, and just past this, the remnants of the dock gates where the infamous call on for casual dockers took place behind a chain. Yeah, I was seeing all of this. That looked great, actually. You could really put myself back there. Walk back to the entrance to the import dock. The small circular building opposite dates from 1803 and was once the guardhouse. By the entrance there is a commemorative tablet that neatly describes the purpose of the docks: to offer complete security and ample accommodation, hitherto not afforded to the shipping and produce of the West Indies at this wealthy port. The first stone was laid on Saturday the 12th day of July AD 1800 by William Pitt and Robert Milligan. Enter the former import dock, flanked by some surviving Georgian warehouse buildings and modern office blocks. Immediately on the left, behind a bronze statue of Milligan, is an old sugar warehouse which today is home to the excellent Museum of Docklands, which explores many aspects of the fascinating history of the docks. The statue of Robert Milligan is no longer there. It's been taken down because he owned slaves and the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't agree with this. I'll lay my cards on the table. No. Put up another statue or something if you want. Don't take down existing ones. Nobody's worshipping the character. Nobody's going there to pray to slavery or anything like that. It's just, I don't agree with it. Sorry. When he finished at the museum, continue along the north quay of Import Dock. There were these things outside which I thought were diving bells. They looked great, but somebody said they were buoys, and I thought, and then it said buoys could be very, very big, and I was like, oh, that's probably what they are. Then I wish they had been diving bells, because I love all that diving and stuff. I haven't done it. I can't do it. I can't barely swim, but I watched it on cave diving and stuff on YouTube, and it's great. It looks great. Now cross over the bridge into the heart of the modern Canary Wharf development. I'll just read all of this and then speak about this. Canary Wharf development. This has been the most successful regeneration project in the Docklands, and in barely 20 years it has begun to challenge the square mile as the preferred London location of many global financial institutions. You may wish to finish the walk here and leave Canary Wharf via one of the DLR stations or the Canary Wharf Underground station, all of which are clearly signposted. Alternatively, if you have this energy to see a little more of the remnants of the old docks, carry on through Cabot Street. Now, okay, look, I'm going to take an executive decision here. He gives a load of directions here which are absolutely terrible, absolutely appalling, and none of these things are clearly signposted. It's a very, very confusing area. It was getting dark now, and my depression at the disparity between the character of the past and the blandness of now was coming on strong. I could have given up. Canary Wharf is, and also I'll state this as well, all these things, the Empire, there's lots of, people say it was evil, this, that, and the other. We weren't the only ones that had an empire. It was a different mentality back then. Now all these things, these buildings, that everything's just gastro, apart from finance and stuff like this, these big 2000 AD sci-fi buildings and stuff, which aren't as interesting as the 2000 AD ones. It's all gastro, people feeding their guts and just people stuffing their faces, banal people stuffing their faces. I'm sorry if I sound very maybe if I had more money so I could pop into these bars or something, I mean, hey, and buy a gram of Coke or something, I feel bad for the Coke dealers who have to navigate that place to sort of drop off their wares. It is a nightmare of a place to try to walk around. But I was ready to give up, but after a little rest, Ricky Stitch managed to push me on to finish it. So finish the walk, and I'll just pick out a couple of things to. It was very, very dark now, and it did, and suddenly I did feel better. If you stand facing Canary Wharf Underground, turn right to your right, keep going through these strange revolving doors, cross through that sort of plaza thing, out the other side, then kind of keep going, and then you come out onto this pathway. Then you see a footpath, take that. At the end of that footpath, go left, then a direct right. You go up that. That will take you to Marsh. That will take you to Marsh Wall. I don't know if I've done that correctly, but eastern side of the Isle of Dogs, and head north up. Walk along Marsh Wall. Keep going past the Tesco's. Then turn. There's Manchester. You come to a little roundabout thing. Manchester on the right side. Manchester Road or something on the right side of it. On the left, Preston Road. And then you walk up Preston Road. You cross a bridge that spans the eastern entrance to the docks. Shortly on the right, walk up Coal Harbour Road. Georgian houses are the oldest buildings on the Isle of Dogs. Then the Gun Public House, which was a kind of a highlight. I would have, if Little Ginger had been there, we could have stopped there for a drink. The Gun Public House, it looked good. It's located here. Its origins in the early 18th century. This is where they did a lot of. This is where Nelson and Lady Hamilton did a bit of chambering. If you know what chambering means, it's 18th century for fucking, because you had to get a chamber. So you get a room, a chamber above a pub or something. The historic Gun Public House, located here, its origins in the early 18th century. It's named after the cannon fired to celebrate the opening of the West India Docks in 1802, and legend has it that Lord Nelson, who stayed at number 3, now called Nelson's House, used to come here for illicit liaisons, chambering, with his mistress, Lady Hamilton, in an upstairs room. The Gun was also a haunt for smugglers, and still has a spy hole used to watch out for the revenue men. You keep walking, you go past Billingsgate Fish Market, and I don't know, that's really it. That's the end, I suppose. Not the best walk in the world, not the worst. I suppose I felt down because there were only 2 of us walking at the end, and as I said, I got so high off the past that the contrast with the banality of now, I said it, repeating myself now, but I did cheer up once I'd got through that block. Somehow I did cheer up, and we had a nice sit down waiting to get on the brand new Queen Elizabeth line. My review of that was fast and efficient. Clean, but the lifts seem to take a peculiarly long amount of time, where because I got off at there's only a few stops all the way to Tottenham Court Road, and then I needed to get the Northern Line. The lift to the Northern Line took forever. People on the train were very cheerful, especially on the Northern Line train. There was lots of jollity, and a lad falling asleep in front of me with 2 different shoes on. That's what it seemed like, although they were made by the same company. Yeah, it's hard to rate this walk. It's hard to rate it. I could rate my imagination, I guess, as 10 out of 10, because I was really, my mind's eye, 10 out of 10. My actual eye, I don't know. So that's the end of that one. Hopefully we'll be back quite soon.